Koby, and I just finished my first year as a mechanical engineering student in HAMK's Riihimäki campus. Right now, I'm a tutor slash student arrival assistant, and right here we have.
Hi guys, I'm Francesca. I also finished my first year in mechanical engineering, same campus in Riihimäki. I'm also a tutor, and I'm actually Koby's classmate as well.
Yeah. And today we're here to discuss some issues that you may have, or some concerns you may have as a new student who might be coming here without the complete idea of how life may be, especially in the beginning, having no experience from a whole different part of the world. We're just here to make that easier for you by discussing some of the topics and experiences we had as a new student when we're coming here. So yeah, let's get into it. So, Francesca, how was your first year experience? Let's start from moving here.
Starting from moving here. Okay. Well, if we're gonna go from the tippy top, going to Riihimäki was quite convenient. It is just a direct train from Helsinki. Yeah. If you go from Helsinki airport, you stop, of course, in Tikkurila. But from there, it's just a direct train to Riihimäki. And I think it's about 50 minutes. So it is quite convenient. Honestly, you don't have to switch around with your luggages. So I found that quite easy. I remember when I first arrived in the city, that was in August. I was looking for a place because originally I was gonna go with Hops, which is kind of partnered, I think, with HAMK, or HAMK's like official operator that handles student accommodation. But according to my needs, I just decided to switch from Hops to private. So yeah. Moving in was pretty smooth. My landlady, she was quite nice. And yeah, my area is, I think it's quite easy to kind of move around because Riihimäki is a bit of a small town. Pretty much, yeah. So you have Prisma, and I mean, everything's in Prisma. So if you live near Prisma, I think that was a good spot, right? Yeah. But Hops as well. Hops is, you guys live near the train station, yeah? Yeah, that's our upper side. Yeah, so for me on the other side of things, I was already in Finland. Yeah, actually, I'm quite familiar with the country. So I just pretty much moved from a different city to this place. And just so you know, Riihimäki is the main train station. So almost every train that goes long distance stops in Riihimäki before going to wherever they are supposed to go. So that's like a plus. You could never really not catch a train to Riihimäki because it's literally accessible. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so. And yeah, about the moving in experience, I live in the student apartment. She doesn't. And yeah, they are pretty decent. They are really affordable for students. And at least it's way easier because everything is taken care of. You just apply and then they assign a place to you. You pick a date, you go pick your keys and you move in. And they are mostly pretty furnished already with the basic needs that you're supposed to get as a student. So moving in is really not a problem in the first place. So yeah. Yeah, if you actually choose like my scenario, most apartments are actually unfurnished, if not most, but all. So you gotta keep that in mind. With Hops, I think for your rent, there is a lot of things included, but for my rent, it's just the base price, and then I pay an additional for water and internet. So yeah, just kind of take note if you wanna go my route. Yeah, and about how I found this city, like she was saying, I moved from a bigger city. I used to live in Tampere, which is about an hour and a half from here. And it's pretty much Helsinki, but downsized, a bit more chill. And everything works. They have trams, they have trains, they have buses that go around. But Tampere is a much more smaller city. Besides the fact that we have a main train station, it's pretty much small and everything just circles in itself. You cannot get lost in Riihimäki and everything is a walking distance. So I found that quite convenient. It does get boring sometimes, but the good thing is that you can easily just get away, you know? So that's pretty much one thing. So what about setting up with your school accounts and all the official processes that you have to go through to be a HAMK student? Yeah, so if I recall correctly, I think there was an email that they sent out. There was an email for one application, which is called Goin. Yeah, I think you know that as well. Of course. So it's kind of like a platform where all incoming and also current students join.
from HAMK, and yeah, that's a way to kind of connect with people, especially for new students. You know, it's like a bit overwhelming, like, oh my gosh, I don't know anyone. So it's kind of like connecting already, and you could see people based on their nationality, their gender, their program, and what campus. So I thought that was pretty convenient. That was one of them. The second thing is I definitely got an email, I think, from our guidance counselor, how to kind of set up things. Yeah, so there was Tuudo, the school app, and I'm actually trying to recall anything. Do you remember?
Yeah,
It's been a while,
I do. Yeah. So about the Goin app,
Yeah.
I really took advantage of that because I was like, you know what? Why not? It's pretty much a socialization app where you can meet people, like you said, based on the campuses and their degrees and countries. So you can connect, and we can always pick interests on Goin. So it kind of groups people based on interest, and you can meet people with similar mindset as you, and you can always talk to them, and then establish some connections even before like getting to HAMK. So personally, I really advise that you make good use of that app. And with the other things, yeah, there was an email, like she said, that gives you a link to start your whole HAMK signing up process. But apart from that, there are guides on the websites with videos as well that should give you everything you need to set up. So that is not really a problem. You shouldn't worry about not knowing everything. It's not like it's obvious, and they have taken that into account, and they have provided guides for that. So at least that was simple in the beginning, right?
Oh yeah, I mean, especially for a new student, you know, it could be daunting at first, overwhelming, which is what every new student goes through, you know, especially when you're in a new country and then you're in this school, you don't know anything. It's okay to be overwhelmed, but I'm confident enough that HAMK has a lot of guides on the website that are very user-friendly and easy to follow, so yeah.
Yeah, anytime you need some help, you should check there first before maybe asking, because they have probably thought about it and already put guides there. Yeah. So let's go to the orientation day, because, you know, after setting up, then of course, orientation. How was that for you?
Orientation day. I remember I was the first one in the building. Nobody was even there, so I had no idea what time I should be there. So I was like, okay, maybe I should go there like almost an hour before. So I was quite early. I was like one of the first ones. I could remember that day. I remember seeing him. And then a bunch of our classmates, we were just like all waiting, and then we see our guidance counselor, so she brings us to this classroom, and then it's just like a typical orientation day, you know, getting to know the campus. Did we do a campus tour? I think
we did. We did. We had tutors take us to a different department with teachers like on standby, waiting to show us how things work and what this side of the campus is mainly for, and who we should talk to if we're interested in certain topics. So at least that gave us an idea of how things work around here. Yeah.
And I think our guidance counselor was also talking about like how our first week is going to look like in school. So she was giving us like our schedules where we can find them, whether it's in Baki or Tuudo. Also like how to enroll courses and everything. Just making sure that you enroll in courses. Yeah, because that's one thing that I personally have made a mistake. So they always like to ensure. They always like to ensure that you've enrolled in all their courses before the semester starts. So yeah, that was my orientation day. How about you?
Yeah, I remember, like you said, but I wasn't the first. Of course, I wasn't the first. I just got here at a pretty decent time. I think it was 20 minutes before the actual start time, and I just sat around. I remember seeing everyone. You know, it's so tense when everyone is new and no one knows each other. Everyone looks so serious, like, ooh, should I talk to that person? For me, it was a bit more easy because I had already established some connections on Goin. But like with the people here, it was a bit too like, you know, but there were some ice-breaking activities that, you know, encourage you to talk to other people. And yeah, on the first day, it was pretty much just setting up campus tour. We got our lunch cards as well. That is really important because lunch costs way more if you don't have that card. So we got that in check, and we had like 2 orientation days in our campus before the big orientation in the main campus, and that is where I really saw the power of making social connections beforehand, because it was really easy to navigate and then keep meeting new people. It was a fun experience for me, and I would really encourage you to be more outgoing, because one way to get up and around here is through connections, and that's really helping you. How about classes though? How were those for you, especially in the beginning, balancing your life with these new 8 a.m. classes and tons and tons of projects? You know, that kind of thing. How was it for you?
Well, of course, it was a bit. There was an adjustment period for me, because I definitely don't have any strong like engineering background. So there was an adjustment in terms of my academic knowledge. That's what I can remember. And of course, when they introduced like early classes, 8 a.m., I was like, oh no, okay, I gotta deal with it. But I mean, it is school, so sometimes you just have to have those early classes. Yeah, I can remember our teachers, really nice. Yeah, some of them are really relaxed. And if you have any questions, they will help you. They actually encourage you to ask questions. I do expect that there will be long lectures though sometimes for specific classes.
Definitely.
So
Definitely.
be prepared for that one. Yeah, and we also had some Finnish classes, especially for the first year, Finnish language classes. So that one was interesting. It's quite long too, but okay, even if they're long, they have breaks. You know, our teachers give breaks, and sometimes we even ask for breaks.
Of course,
Yeah,
of course. If you're tired, just like,
yeah,
hey man, could we have like 15
Yeah.
minutes to walk around and get coffee or something? Because
Mhm.
it's not so easy sitting down for like
yeah,
2 hours straight. And
yeah. They definitely understand that. And speaking of like leaving classes, I don't think you necessarily need to tell the teacher every single time that when you need to
yeah,
leave
this
the
is uni.
classroom.
Come on.
Yeah, but it's just like it's also maybe for some other people they're not used to it. Like they might think that I have to like raise my hand and tell. But like if you need to go to the bathroom, you can go like the washroom. Yeah.
Yeah. Like for example, where I come from, I came straight from high school pretty much, and in my high school we have to call teachers, like we have to address them formally, like sir
Yeah.
or mister. But here, like you see a lecturer who could be your dad, and he probably wants you to call him by his first name.
Mhm.
So it's a bit more chill. Things are different here, and note that things are more dependent on you when you come here.
Yeah.
They are not really going to spoon feed you with all the information you need.
Mhm.
At one go. It's like, okay, there's an idea of what you should know. Just make sure you know it. If you have any problems in finding that knowledge, then you're gonna contact me. So yeah, you should be ready. And about the Finnish classes, Finnish language is quite important here.
Mhm.
You
Yeah.
should look into learning about it before you get here, if you can. But don't sweat it. There are a lot of materials at your disposal to help you get well acquainted with the language, and everything is probably made for your learning and to your thinking process. So yeah. What else? I would say that balancing was not really a problem because I had a degree before I came here, and I know I just said I came straight from high school, but I just went to 2 unis before coming to high school, before coming to this place. And having that, I was quite used to waking up early, having to come to class, and then having to deal with the project works and everything. So that was okay for me. And I think you adjust over because it doesn't just hit you at once. It's a gradual process. They teach you what you're supposed to know, and then assign you to group and you work with them. It's easier when you collaborate and you have an effective group. So yeah.
Yeah, there is a lot of collaborative like projects here in Finland. One thing I wanted to mention also is like your hardware. I do hear a lot of questions like, okay, is my laptop's like internal machinery works for whatever is required? Because I know HAMK has it on their website, like what minimum requirement when it comes to having a laptop. In Riihimäki, we do have computer labs which have like all the softwares you need. Personally, I have a MacBook Pro with an M1 chip. I'm surviving. It's actually pretty good. Yeah. The school also allows you to like download softwares like CAD and stuff. With mine, the M1 chip was pretty helpful. Just saying, if you're an Apple person. Yeah, I know there's like a bit of a controversy, but you'll survive. You'll survive. And we do a lot of things like online. I do like sometimes they give us papers to kind of like solve things.
Yeah,
but
everything is basically on Moodle.
yeah, everything is basically on Moodle. So if you do have like an iPad or something, it'd be easier for you to write all your equations, submit it as a PDF. So that's also another tip.
Hope you're doing your study kits because that's gonna get you like familiar with the ups and don't wait last minute because some of us did wait last minute and it really cost us. You wouldn't know what to do. Everyone is going ahead and you were kind of lost. So I'm pretty sure you have seen a prompt to start doing it. please do. Please do. And
those are really helpful.
yeah, about the computers, I'm on the Windows side of things. I know that as an engineer, it's more, it's probably more in your best interest to have a Windows PC.
Yeah,
and I would encourage you, you should make that investment into getting a good PC from the start, because you might want to work from home, or you might want to do some things at your own pace. And if you are limited by the school resources, sometimes, you know, when the school is in a certain mode, like they close or they are working on stuff, it kind of slows you down. So you should get your own PC so you can work at your own pace, work from anywhere you want, even if for some reason you can't make it to class. And yeah, that's pretty much all I think you should know. Is there anything that you necessarily struggled with when you came here?
Anything that I necessarily struggled with when I came here? Honestly, it was that digital starter kit. I'm gonna mention that one because that one helped.
Do it, man.
Yeah. I remember I was pretty much on pace with everything, but that really helped a lot, because I was already familiar with Moodle, but there are other places like Paki and other things, and you know, even accessing like with your student email, accessing the whole like Microsoft like cloud and stuff. So yeah, with the digital starter kit, definitely, I definitely think that you should pay attention to that. Yeah.
For me, let me see. No, I think I was good. I was quite good.
Okay.
So, yeah, the one thing I would say is that you shouldn't hesitate to also ask for help from our guidance counselors, because they're always there to help us to clear the confusions. If you have any special conditions, or for some reason you might need special arrangements, you should reach out. Because I remember for myself, I needed an address for settling some social security issues, and I remember that the apartments weren't supposed to be assigned for like a whole 2 months before I got mine, and I was able to email the one in charge of the apartment, and I was able to get an arrangement and get my apartment before everyone else. And I think you should take advantage of that, because you shouldn't try to figure things out that are beyond your control on your own. Otherwise, it might lead to some really deadly consequences. So, yeah, that's pretty much it for the first year experience on our sites. And now we're here to see what's in it for us for the second year. So, stay tuned. So about the weather, how is it when you got here?
Oh yeah, so I came here around August. It was definitely, summer had finished by that time. I think it was in the transitory period of summer to, was it fall? I think it was fall. Yeah, so the temperatures around that time, it was, well, for me personally, it's quite warm because I already have like experience living in a cold country. So I think the maximum temperature at that time would be at maybe like 18 degrees Celsius, I think, max. But I feel like that's kind of I definitely think it was much lower at that time, because walking in orientation day, I definitely think that was like a 10-degree weather, but I enjoyed it. That's the thing. I don't know. What do you think? Am I getting this right? Because it was definitely much colder than summer.
Yeah, that's true, because like I said, I was here for a while, and I may not have realized it, but I do remember myself in much more long sleeve clothes like during that time. So yeah, I guess you may be on the right track about the weather. It was transitioning from, it was late summer and like early autumn, so the leaves weren't all orange yet, and like they weren't falling, but it was relatively less sunny. And the temperature was dropping gradually. So I think that was it. But what kind of clothes did you have to wear during that time?
Well, some days, since I already have like my skin's kind of used to the cold weather, some days I didn't have a jacket, but some days I had a light jacket, maybe like a type of trench coat or something, or a bomber jacket, something like that. But of course I understand for new students it can be already like, oh, that is something, you know, a bit cold. So yeah, definitely. I don't think maybe a winter jacket might be a little bit too much, because it could be cold in the morning, and then later on the sun's out and it's much warmer, so you're like sweaty inside, so that's not really a good feeling. So there is just like us arriving during the transitory period. There's also kind of a transitory jacket, you know. Yeah. How about you? What did you wear? Maybe like hoodies or something.
That's what I was saying. Personally, you could never go wrong with a hoodie because you know the Finnish sun is not hot enough to kind of get you too hot and too like sweaty for the day, but it's also not like cold enough to make you like all chilly and I need a jacket or I need to cover up so much. So I feel like a hoodie is good enough. During those times I wore hoodies and sweatshirts, and I feel like I was just optimal, like minimum, like was the average like temperature the whole day, and I was just able to go through the mornings and the nights and like the hot afternoons with that. And I feel like that is an essential that you should have, like a hoodie or a sweatshirt. I feel like you could never go wrong with that. And also, like she said, like a lighter jacket, like a bomber jacket or something like that. It helps you when it's a bit too windy, but not cold enough for you to need like a winter jacket, like you said, because that would be way too much. And yeah, but let's talk about when it got maybe like 1 month into the sem or 2 months into the sem, when it was actually starting to get chilly and it was approaching like winter. How was that?
Oh yeah, approaching winter. So Finnish winter, well, it's one thing that you'll experience, and you'll know what I'm talking about when I say Finnish winter. But even transitioning to that, I think if I recall correctly, there were times where it has snowed one day and then the next day it doesn't. So you can't really give an accurate prediction of when winter will actually be coming, because it could honestly again like snow for like 1-2 days and then it's just completely gone and then it's just gonna melt away. So it was definitely much colder, definitely single digit degrees already, so like 10 and below. I was pretty much kind of wearing the same thing, but I started layering, so that's kind of important when the temperatures go colder. It's important to layer, and you know, maybe I definitely threw in some hoodies, and then I had a jacket on top of it sometimes, so, or even a sweatshirt and then my trench coat. So, and that's when I started like kind of piling up my clothes.
Yeah. So when you get here, it's initially going to be relatively warmer in the first place. Depending on the country you come from, that might even be a little bit chilly for you.
Yeah.
But for the other European students and for those of us who may have been here for a while, you know, we're kind of used to how things are. So I would say that it'll be wise to start gathering like clothes for the cold. You know, you could look around the discounts, especially as the season is approaching, and there are also like thrift shops that you can go to and find like cheap quality clothes, and it's really good to prepare for it when you get here, because it's not going to be warm forever. You cannot keep on wearing a t-shirt. After a while you will start to notice, it might not be instant, but you will start to notice that your clothes will just not be doing it for the weather.
Yeah,
so
definitely.
you should definitely think about that. If they have those in your country or wherever you're coming from, you should probably get a few in preparation. Yeah,
I definitely agree with that.
Yeah.
That's a good point.
So when it got to winter though,
Yeah.
like you said, it's an experience. We can't describe it. We can do our best, but you know, you really just have to experience it.
Exactly.
So how is that for you?
Well, personally, I love cold. I like the winter, so that's kind of a rare thing to say. Honestly, whenever I tell that to people, they're like, "What? Really?" They're quite surprised. But yeah, the loom, I like it. For me, the Finnish winter, it's actually quite beautiful when it reaches its peak stage, when when the snow becomes quite powdery, and then it starts to like shimmer a bit. But also, one thing I could advise is that when you're walking, you know, if you have a car or if you're commuting, walking to and fro, it's really handy to have spikes. You can definitely pick up some spikes when you are here, like in Prisma or K-City or any like grocery. They're just spikes, and you just kind of attach it at the sole of your shoe, and they're really helpful when you go around, because they do kind of put like salt, I think it's salt or something on the road, but if there is, you know, if it snows, the salt just get like washed away and stuff. So and if you have an early morning class, and you know, you have to wake up quite early, sometimes they don't,
those cold mornings.
Yeah, those cold mornings. So definitely those spikes really helped me. Again, I have to emphasize, layer properly, and the quality of the clothes is super important. I definitely have invested in like one good winter jacket, and I noticed here because you mentioned thrift shops. Yeah, they're definitely if you can look, you can definitely pick up something that is of quality. And actually, the stuff here, the clothes here, when you pick a good one, they do last for a long time. So I think it's a good investment. But yeah, layering is important, and even the material of the clothing, I understand because I'm Asian, so like the material of the clothing is it's quite thin.
Yeah.
So I definitely had to pick up a few things when I was here, so I could layer properly. Yeah, so that's one thing I could definitely advise. Also, when you layer your clothes, it's good to cover some like important parts in your body. Try not to get your feet wet, so your socks should be really thick, wool, I guess, something like that. Yeah, because if your feet get soaked somehow, I don't know, your shoe gets wet, your boots.
Your day is ruined, literally.
Yeah, it will. You're definitely gonna feel much colder. And it's also important to cover your chest and everything, your head. That's also important. Sometimes it gets really cold here. I remember in Riihimäki when I was out for a run. Yeah, I ran in the winter. My eyelashes also had froze. Yeah.
Jeez.
So that was a fun experience for me. It was really nice. But yeah, layering, that's one thing, and also covering up important parts of the body. And Finnish winter, sometimes it can be unpredictable. You know, you can get strong winds, you know, and then there's snow and goes.
Yeah.
How was your experience though?
For me, I remember it gets really dark, so the whole lights, like, I don't know what it's called, but like the sun comes up at different times. So now you have like more darkness throughout the day, and you might have sunlight for like 4 or 5 hours a day, and it gets back to darkness. So I remember one thing that was difficult for me was like actually getting myself out of bed, because I could wake up at 7 a.m. or 6 a.m. and it's dark outside. It looks like I should continue my sleep, like for the normal reasoning. But then you have to kind of condition yourself to know that now I work based on the time, not based on what it looks like outside. So regardless of the weather, that's one thing in Finland though. People respect time a lot, and regardless of the weather, if you're supposed to be somewhere or you're supposed to do something, it is going to come on. Do not think that maybe because it's snowy or it's rainy, you know, maybe it's cancelled. Nah, it's not cancelled, man.
Yeah,
you need to
definitely not cancelled.
You need to figure out. The Finnish always say there's no such thing as bad weather, just bad clothing. So you need to be dressed for any situation. Make sure you have the right clothes and the right things to protect you from any conditions outside that might cause some health conditions, especially because health is wealth, and you want to be in the best condition for the important things in life, like your education in this case. So that was pretty much one thing that stood out to me. And yeah, I already had my clothes in check, but you should get like you said, good winter boots. Spikes, for me, I was a bit of a risky dude. I didn't walk around with spikes because it was never really too slippery for me. I fell once, but apart from that, I have a clean record. I've never fallen in my life. So and about the layering as well, you should get some good layers, like good proper cotton shirts, and with that you have a jacket that's waterproof, and you should be good to go. Make sure you have a hat, gloves as well. When you said important things, can't believe you left that out. Your fingers. Now, if your fingers freeze, it could take like 5 minutes for you to feel them again. You could lose all feeling in your fingers, your ears, like anything that is like a limp on your body. You should have that covered, just to make sure you have full functionality. And that was pretty much the things that I looked out for, things that stood out, and the lessons that I kind of found out the hard way.
The hard way,
me. Yeah,
definitely.
But was there anything else that stood out to you?
Yeah, you mentioned health is wealth. I forgot to say I was definitely racking up on my multivitamins, especially on my vitamin D. Especially
lack of sunlight.
Yeah, you mentioned the lack of sunlight. It's true. Like, when winter comes, Finland is quite up north in the globe, so it does get dark. So I was already racking up on my vitamin D because seasonal depression is a real thing, folks. It's real. So you
sure.
will feel depression. You will feel a bit, groggy and kind of
Sorry.
sad because you're just lacking sun. So definitely one thing to do is just to take more vitamin D or more vitamins, multivitamins. That one really helped me. So yeah, you mentioned health as well. So of course, you gotta take care even through the Finnish winter.
Yeah, pretty much. And let's see, was there anything that well, the winter is pretty much the same. Once it gets to its peak and it's continuous, it's like fluffy snow and then dark days and stuff like that. But another thing is when it's melting. The slush, man. The floors get extra wet and even more slippery, and because the snow is melting, the sun is coming out more often. It's a sign of hope. It makes you feel happier that okay, we're finally done with this. Even though winter has its nice times, the northern lights and skiing. You should really make sure to participate in all the winter activities that there may be, because comes around once a year. You should
definitely
take advantage of that. It's fun. It's fun in its own way. But when it's leaving, though, sometimes it could be a bit of a headache because now the floors are a bit more less appealing, and with that is where you might need your spikes, because sometimes it melts, then it freezes, and now it becomes ice, and that could be really risky for any part of your body. You will really want to make sure you have boots that are like high top boots, so that you don't risk wetting your feet and stuff like that. It's not something I could describe from just sitting here, but I could prepare you for it a little bit. So yeah, hopefully you would experience it for yourself, but it will be less of a hard time because of this. So yeah. Yeah. So how about the most important things, like the official processes, like the registration, DVV, and all that to get which takes you to get your ID and then your bank stuff. How is that for you?
Yeah. So just letting you know that Finland has this kind of process. So what I remember is that you kind of start from the top, like when you mentioned DVV, the orientation at the main campus, which is in HAMK. DVV was actually there, so definitely take advantage of that. It got lengthy, in terms of like the crowd. That's what I mean. There were a lot of people because, of course, it is easier to just do it in the orientation day. Because if you choose not to do it in the orientation day, you're gonna have to book a DVV appointment. From what I know, I don't think there's an office here in Riihimäki, so you're gonna have to go to the DVV in Hämeenlinna. Yeah. So that's why I wanted to do it on the orientation day, because it's kind of like a walk-in. You don't need to book an appointment with them because DVV is there themselves. So DVV, that's Digital Populations Services. I think that's what it kind of stands for. It's to register yourself and to get a Finnish social security number, which is very important if you don't have that, because when I first came here around 2 years ago, I didn't have that number, but I do hear that some residence permits already give you that social security number. So if and then you have that number, it's then that number is your birth date plus 4 digits. It will be in your residence permit. But if you don't have that number, you're also gonna get it when you register yourself in DVV. So that's where you start. The next thing that I did when I first came here in Finland, I also applied for a police ID. So that is a very important thing, because if you do change your, let's say, like driver's license to a European one, that really isn't a valid ID here in Finland. So what you can show is that police ID, that is considered a valid ID here, aside from your passport. So that's the first thing that I got, and the reason why I got that is because when I opened a bank account here, I opened it with HAMK, and they told me that if I did not have that police ID, it'll probably take me 6 months to open a bank account. And I was like, okay, I can't really wait for 6 months. So this police ID can be applied under the police station here. So you can also book that. I think I definitely booked that online. And yeah, they're just gonna ask for typical documents, your passport, and I think I had to show. I think I also had to show my DVV as well. But yeah, it was kind of, there was processes. So you start with DVV, and then you get your police ID. Then after the police ID, you can set up your bank account. I chose S-Banky personally because they have this thing where they are partnered with S Group. S Group is kind of a company with a bunch of other like subsets or umbrella companies. Prisma is part of the S Group, so anything green basically. If you put it that way, they're probably part of S Group, S Market, and I think Sale as well is also part of S Group.
Asperger.
Yeah, Asperger. So the reason why I joined that is because they had this kind of opportunity as a student. When you open a bank account with them, you can also kind of be a member of S Group, something like that, and you get money back when you spend in any S Group businesses. So whenever I do my groceries, which is in Prisma, because Prisma is the closest to me, at the end of each month I get money back. So I think the most that I've gotten was probably like 12 euros. So it is based on how much you spend. So just want to clarify that one. And well, after my bank account, I think that's kind of the basics. You can switch out, by the way, your driver's license, but you should do that within the year, because after 1 year of living in Finland, you're probably gonna have to be required to take the driving lessons here, pass the driving test. But if you do it within the first year of you being here, you just kind of have to book a medical exam. Just gonna check your eyes and everything, and then yeah, you just kind of switch it out, and they'll give you your European one. So you're gonna have to surrender your home country's license. Oh yeah, I forgot to mention Kela card. Yeah, I also applied for a Kela card. What I did, I actually just walked into the Kela office. I was like, hey, I want to apply for a Kela card. She's like, okay, yeah, sure. Here's a paper. It's a case-to-case scenario. I definitely heard a lot of people apply differently, but for me, I walked in, I applied for a Kela card, and they just kind of shipped it to my address.
Yeah,
that's how it works for me. Also, when you do like kind of go abroad, there is kind of an opportunity to also get the EHIC, something like that's European Health Insurance Card. Yeah, so you can only get it if you have a Kela card. But I also have that as well. Yeah, and then what else? Did I miss out anything?
I don't think so. For me, I was born here, so of course she has way more knowledge on these things.
Yeah.
About the banks, I am with Nordea Bank, and I've had that since birth. I had the same account since I was a baby, literally. And yeah, it's pretty much nothing new. You just unlock your full potential, like with the bank account as an adult, because now you are old enough to control it. And concerning the DVV and the social security numbers, I was already in the system. Also relating to Kela, I had one since I was a child, but I applied again, and I used the online method. So you just log into your Kela account and apply for one, and they send it to your address, and then that works perfectly for you. The police ID too, I didn't always have one. I had to get one myself recently when I grew up, and yeah, I had to go to a police station and go through all that. It was 60 euros at the time I did it. I don't know how much it is now. Oh, okay. Yeah, and one thing about the police ID is that when you get that, you can unlock like an online authentication with your bank, and with that way, you can kind of confirm your identity in any like official processes. Maybe when you're logging into school systems or logging into bank systems, you're trying to pay with something, or
medical as well,
or even logging into Kela, like things like that. You can kind of show your police ID to your bank, and they can approve anytime you want to log in. You approve with your bank's ID that okay, it's actually me logging into this system, and then I have the rights to control this and that and that. So that is also one reason why you should get your police ID, because with that it also links you to your student discounts as well, because when you can't confirm that you're using a particular service in any official way, it doesn't like allow you to get through that wall, and so many things become inaccessible to you. But yeah, apart from that, I think everything else was pretty much handed to me as a baby, but you heard from her how it goes, and I believe you should really take these things like into consideration and sort those things first when you get here so that you don't have any future complications.
Yeah, definitely. Those were the things that I was doing when I first landed here in Finland a few years back. One thing I wanted to mention, actually, I don't know with your bank, but HAMK just recently closed in Riihimäki. So the next nearest HAMK is actually Vinka. So definitely do take it into consideration, especially if you use public transportation and you want to do something with the bank. I have no news actually when Riihimäki is gonna open one, but I go to Hyvinkää, which is the next town. So yeah, do you have is there Nordea or OP?
No, actually I don't know the nearest Nordea, to be honest. I did see a logo of one in Hyvinkää, but I've mostly been to the ones in other cities like Helsinki and Espoo, because I've lived around those areas for a while and I kind of had my things figured out, in the earlier stages of my life. But yeah, usually the nearest locations are like made known to you when you input your location onto the bank's website and you try to book an appointment. If you call, they might tell you, okay, we have a slot here, the nearest one to your city. Come here at this time and let's sort this out. Come with your IDs and your passport and stuff like that. So you should check that out. There's a lot of information online. These banks provide information on how to access their services as well. So you should research into that and make sure you find a bank that works for you. I would obviously recommend my bank, and I think she would recommend her bank as well.
I also hear good things about OP as well. So I do have a couple of friends who are also using OP and they like it too.
Yeah.
So
So
yeah, just choose one according to your needs, I guess.
Pretty much. Yeah. Make sure you sort that out.
Yeah.
On the issue of transport, though, like when you came here, how were you moving around? Did you have a car? Did you bike? Did you walk? How was that for you?
Yeah, so actually, for context, I've also been here in Finland for a while, so I've had my fair share. Yeah, I've had my fair share of experiences using public transport. Also, another public transport, aka my 2 feet. My feet, yeah. But now I actually managed to get a car. So right now, a car is my primary mode of transportation. So there are big pros and cons actually. So that's how I get around. Riihimäki is small, so sometimes, on occasion, I actually walk. But most of the times I use my car. Yeah. So it is quite convenient. Parking is free. Gas prices are maybe on a good sunny bright day it's okay. It's bearable, I guess.
I wouldn't know.
Yeah. But personally for me, where I used to live before I came here, public transportation, well, I usually used my other public transportation, aka my feet, most of the times. And Riihimäki, honestly, it's when it's quite sunny, I actually walk to school, so I should like to kind of take advantage of the vitamin D. I find everything close, especially where I live. It's like an 8-minute walk to school, and then Prisma's just like right down the block, so it's really easy for me to get around. And would I say behind Prisma maybe, from my venture point, is a train station. So it is a 12-minute walk to the train station, which for me is pretty close. So yeah, that's kind of how I, kind of moved around, and especially in Riihimäki, but it's probably different for you, right?
Oh yeah. So for me, I had a relative drop me off on my first day with my stuff, of course. And from that point onwards, I just took a walk around the city. I realized it was a really small place to be. I tried to get lost, but you literally cannot, because everything just circles back to the center, which is about 10 minutes from campus by foot. So everything is pretty much in one place. Everything you need, at least, is in one place. And I mainly walked around on my first days, and I used the scooters as well. When the weather is warm and the floors are dry, the grounds are dry, they have these rental scooters that you could just use for really cheap, and you could just leave them around when you're done, at least decently though. And another way I also got around was by bike, because biking is actually quite big here, because the public transport isn't really the smoothest, and it doesn't run as frequently as it does in the big cities. So maybe you might only use public transport if you need to get somewhere that is completely inaccessible by foot, at least in a realistic amount of time. So I have used the public transport here for like longer distances that would have taken me maybe an hour and a half to walk. And it is convenient once you plan your things well. But for the most of it, I bike or walk around, and that is pretty much enough for me. You don't need to have you don't necessarily need to have a car.
Yeah.
But it is a luxury if you can afford it. But you should be fine on your 2 feet. And yeah, that's pretty much it about getting around in Riihimäki. Alright, so about shopping.
Yeah.
Where do you usually like to buy your stuff? Things you need for your everyday life, eating, and like other things for the home. Where do you like to get that?
Yeah, so I usually run my errands in Prisma. I've probably mentioned it a few times, just because I live really close to Prisma, like, again, just right in front of me. Also, Prisma includes, there's actually a gym there, there's Normal, which is kind of like, how do I describe Normal? Maybe like a department store. It's like kind of an all-around thing,
Yeah.
but it's mostly all for home goods. In Prisma as well, the reason why I go there is also because of my bank, what I talked about, the whole S group and everything. But on occasions, I go to Lidl, which is kind of also near. It's probably near school.
Yeah,
closer to school maybe than Prisma. So it's kind of in my way going home. So I also pass by Lidl, and there are some stuff that are actually cheaper in Lidl. So if I do collate enough stuff on my list, I'm like, okay, then today is my Lidl trip. On occasions, I do go to K City Market. It's quite far. I don't know if it's possible to actually commute going there. It's really far.
You need to bike or scoot.
Bike or
walking,
scooter.
That would be a crazy
Yeah,
cardio
it would
session.
be way too far. I think it's like a 40-minute walk. So I do go there sometimes from time to time if I need specific stuff, but I don't go there quite often. One thing to mention, by the way, in Riihimäki, as us Asians, in the city center, there's an Asian market. I wanted to mention that one. Really wanted to highlight on that one too, because I was there the other day actually, and I was comparing prices, and of course, we'd like to pick products with brands that we're familiar with and also that are cheaper. I saw a brand that I was kind of familiar with, and I was like, oh, they had this. So I definitely picked that one up in the Asian market. So I will be going there more often. But yeah, I'm mostly a Prisma girly. How about you, Koby?
Yeah, I agree. I mostly go to Prisma,
Yeah.
and I feel like it's the prices are quite good in Prisma. For me, I have been around for a while, so as a student on a budget, I've done the comparisons and I've gone to different stores. I know what I need to get from Lidl, and I know what I need to get from Prisma, but most of the time I shop in Prisma. And I would say if you live within a 1 kilometer radius from the train station, every shop you need should be in walking distance. There is K City Market, but there's another K Market that you could just walk to. It's kind of behind the student apartments, and they have Lidl too, which is close to campus, and Prisma. I buy from those three depending on my needs, and yeah, I would say for me the cheapest is Prisma. It's where I do most of my grocery shopping, and there are products from every range, from the cheapest to the most expensive. So depending on your needs and depending on the kind of quality you would like for yourself and the meals you make, you should find anything you need at Prisma. And yeah, grocery shopping is pretty affordable in Riihimäki. There aren't any factors that should cause any crazy increase in prices. So yeah, we pretty much have everything we need. Maybe other shops like clothing stores and some other department stores might not be here, but they're in the next city, which is HAMK, and that is pretty much 7 minutes by train. So
yeah,
you should have everything you need and not too far away from you.
Yeah, definitely.
Anything else?
Prisma actually to me is like a kind of a little mall, thinking about it, because they also have Emotion, which I mean for the ladies it's also convenient. It's more of like beauty supplies and stuff like that. I also think that they have like a network carriers there. They have DNA. They have Elisa.
So the building it's
Yeah.
called Atomy, and Prisma is in
inside.
the building. Yeah, that's Riihimäki Mall.
Yeah, that's Riihimäki Mall. They also have, if you need to take any passport or ID pictures, they also have a place there where they can do that, like photography area. They also have a Hess burger there. And they also have a sushi buffet. What else? So yeah, it is quite convenient. Kind of a tip that I would suggest if you get to live close to Prisma. It's a nice place. A lot of things are there. It's all packed in one, so you don't need to make multiple trips.
Yeah.
So that's just kind of my advice.
Great. That's nice to hear. So yeah, that's pretty much it for our first year experience. It's great that you chose Finland. It's definitely going to be an adventure, and for those of you coming to Riihimäki and HAMK in general, other campuses, I hope this information was valuable to you. I hope it kind of eased your conscience, give you some peace of mind about coming here, and hopefully your arrival journey will be far smoother than ours, because now you have us. And anything you'd like to add?
Yeah, definitely. I agree with Koby. Thanks for watching. It's gonna be an adventure. If you're ever coming to Riihimäki campus, we look forward to seeing you. And if you want to stay in touch with us or get in touch with us, actually, if you're an incoming student, you can connect with us on Goin. My name is Francesca Buson, and
I'm Koby from Paul, and we're both tutors. So
so
feel free to reach out and ask us any questions you may have, and
definitely
catch you in real life.
Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.